Tonight, the bare minimum of Senate Democrats in the caucus, 8 of them to be exact, voted with Republicans on the first step to reopen the government. Here's what 3 sources familiar with the agreement say that it includes. The government will be fully funded through January. SNAP food assistance will be funded through next September. And the federal workers who were laid off during this shutdown will get their jobs back.
But the Democrats' main sticking point during this shutdown, an extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies, is not part of this package. Instead, there's a promise to vote on the extension, but no guarantee. It comes as premiums are set to rise for millions of Americans next year. So let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona tracking all of this. Melanie, first talk to us about the timeline here to reopen the government, because we know the House would also need to vote on it. That chamber has been on recess for nearly 2 months now. So how close are we to the shutdown truly being over?
Yeah, there's still a road here to reopening the government. First, this funding deal still has to pass the Senate. The leadership was hoping to vote on that bill this evening, but in order to do that, they would need an agreement from every single senator, and right now they don't have that. We know of at least 2 Republican senators who are holding things up. So the leadership is working to secure a time agreement. That vote is still TBD, and then if and when it passes the Senate, which we do expect it to pass the Senate ultimately, it'll head to the House, where, as you noted, the members have been gone since September 19th. But Speaker Mike Johnson held a press call, earlier today with his members, and he told them that he is hoping to have a vote as soon as Wednesday on a deal to reopen the government. That vote, though, could slip to Thursday, depending on what happens in the Senate. Nonetheless, though, he encouraged his members to get back to D.C. as soon as possible because of all those air travel delays caused by the shutdown.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a minute. Melanie, while some Senate Democrats joined their Republican colleagues to try to reopen the government, as we said, other Democrats I know are angry over not getting a guarantee on that issue of extending Affordable Care Act subsidies. What kind of reactions are you hearing?
Yeah, the shutdown fight has really exposed some deep divisions in the Democratic Party. They were not unified in this decision to support this bill to reopen the government. In fact, it was only 8 Senate Democrats who supported that initial procedural step and that are expected to vote on final passage. So progressives have said this is a surrender, this is a cave, but more independent-leaning Democrats have said their strategy wasn't working for the past 40 days, so it was time to explore new options to fight for health care. Just take a listen.
Yet tonight, what this Senate is about to do is make a horrific situation even worse.
Everybody wants to stand up to Donald Trump. Everybody wants to deal with the ACA tax credits. I do too. The question is this the right tool to do it?
Now, notably, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Democratic leader, is expected to vote no on this funding bill. Very, very different than earlier this spring when he voted with Republicans to reopen the government. Nonetheless, though, he is getting a ton of heat from his left flank for not having his caucus in line.
And Melanie, this agreement would only fund the government through next January, right? So are we just going to be back in this position in a few months?
Well, we could be. Some of the Senate Democrats who are voting for this deal have said they reserve the right to vote against that future funding deal in January if they feel like Republicans aren't in good faith working to find a solution on healthcare, which very well could be the case. It is a very tricky issue here on Capitol Hill. They have not figured out exactly if and how they're going to resolve this at all. However, if there is a shutdown, it would only be a partial shutdown because part of the funding deal they're voting on now would fund 3 agencies long term, including the agency that funds SNAP, that critical food aid program. But this is something certainly that could be on the table in January, guys.
Right, Melanie Zanona in a busy Capitol Hill. Thanks so much.
Well, while Congress is taking a step toward maybe ending the shutdown, air travel only getting worse.
There have been thousands of delays and cancellations nationwide today, according to FlightAware. It comes after the worst air travel day of the shutdown. More than 10,000 flights were delayed on Sunday. More than 2,800 others were canceled.
Today also marks the second missed paycheck for air traffic controllers. President Trump is telling all of them to get back to work now. The president posted on social media that workers who do not return will be docked pay. He also said he's recommending a $10,000 reward for people who didn't take any time off. It's unclear how that would work. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock is at Newark Liberty International Airport in New Jersey, and Clint Henderson, managing editor at The Points Guy, is here in studio with us. Sam, I'll start with you. How have things been looking at Newark today, and what are you hearing from people trying to fly?
Sure. Travelers, Kate, are basically getting backup tickets in case they need them, showing up 7, 8, 9 hours in advance, knowing that their flights inevitably are going to get delayed. And they're telling us that they think the entire framework for this administration and for Congress is lacking in empathy, right? We're looking at a situation right now that more than 40 million Americans are not receiving full SNAP benefits. 1.4 million federal workers either not receiving a paycheck or being furloughed right now. And those 14,000 air traffic controllers who have just missed today their second paycheck. This is a group of people in a very high stress position who are tasked with managing the most congested airspaces in the world, and they haven't been paid, and they're worrying about their families right now. You know, we did hear from Mr. Daniels, who is the president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, earlier today about the precedent for this. He said, look, in previous shutdowns, it typically takes 2 to 2.5 months just to get them paid. So it's not like once Congress finally strikes a deal, guys, things are just going to go right back to normal. Here he was earlier. Take a listen.
This is one of the worlds where this shutdown isn't a light switch. It's not just on and it's not just off. Air traffic controllers have to go in and be perfect every single day. Getting them paid is the priority so they can live their lives and ensure that they have the proper compensation.
So we have 4% flight reductions right now. It's going to be 6% tomorrow, 10% on Friday. Think about this for a second right now. We're pushing 6,000 delays right now nationally, guys. That figure is almost certainly going to eclipse the 10,700 that we saw on Sunday, which was the worst day of the shutdown so far. And it's only going to get double worse, or I should say orders of magnitude worse, 2 times worse if it goes from 4 to 10% in reductions. Imagine the travel apocalypse that awaits the American public if that happens. You understand the pressure right now on Congress.
Absolutely. So, Clint, let's bring you in. I got to confess, Saturday, I was flying out of Austin, Texas, spent a lot of time on the tarmac. Then Sunday, we heard from the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, saying travel could slow to a trickle. So for folks who have holiday plans, who intend to go to the airport, what's your tip to them?
I say have a backup plan. Sam mentioned it, but you really want to have a backup flight booked at this point. So use points and miles to book an alternative flight. Can't be on the same airline because they'll cancel one of your tickets. But I would book a backup flight. If you're going hub to hub, you may be more safe than if you're taking a regional jet, but I would have a backup car rental booked at that second hub. Know what's going on at your arrival and departure airport and track your flights because you want to see where that plane is coming from to know if it's going to get you or not.
It's expensive to book a second ticket though, right? If you don't have those points, you're not in those mileage programs.
So book with cash and a refundable, fully refundable ticket. So that's your goal.
Should you think about canceling altogether, Clint?
You should in the next couple of weeks. I think if you're traveling for Thanksgiving, don't cancel those plans yet. I think hopefully things are going to start slowly getting back to normal. But in the next couple of weeks, if you don't have to travel, do not travel.
Yeah, and I appreciate that Sam said things will not go back to normal immediately, right? This is going to have long-term effects, even if the government shutdown ends soon. So how should people be planning big picture?
So remember, we already had a dramatic shortage of air traffic controllers before the shutdown. So this is going to exacerbate that. So this will continue to go on. Look, you have to be a really educated consumer right now. My best advice is have the airline app installed on your phone, have the airline customer service number, have the overseas customer service number just in case. Follow them on social media. That's how I was able to get a hold of American Airlines when my flights went haywire yesterday in Chicago. I got direct message from X on American Airlines. So you got to use all of the tools in the toolbox. You know, I wish I could tell you that using a credit card that has trip delay and cancellation protection will help you, but they're telling us they're not going to pay for these situations going on right now.
Interesting. All right, Clint Henderson, Sam Brock, thank you both.
Well, President Trump is granting clemency to more people he is connected to.
Late last night, the administration's pardon attorney posted on X that the president has pardoned dozens of people accused of being involved in the effort to overturn the 2020 election.
That list includes Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, and 75 other advisors and members of his legal team.
None of those pardoned had been convicted of federal crimes, which is what the presidential pardon covers. Notably, the proclamation said the pardon did not extend to the president himself. NBC News White House correspondent